Anyhow, good evening, everybody. Once again, there is a handout for this one, so I'm going to be following along with this, and if you want to download the PDF and follow along, I'm going to do a few things different because this is obviously designed for everybody to do in class. So I'm going to try, so I have extra, so I can do things faster than the class time. I'll try to do a few extra things and stuff. So if everybody in the chat room can give me a here, present, hello, whatever, real fast, we'll just get going with that. Since this is the second to last class, I like to do this last project because it basically brings together all the things we've been talking about throughout the entire semester. It's once again building a three-dimensional set. We're going to build a space station. And for the vast majority of that, we are going to just use simple JPEGs, period. I based this on a very old tutorial I found, and the original tutorial was very cool, I thought, but at the same time I stared at it, and the instructions were like 20, 25 pages, and I was like, good grief. I think we can do a little better than that. So yeah, so this is my take on it. So like I said, we're going to be using files like this, just straight JPEGs and stuff. Now the one thing that I'm going to do different than my handout, just for difference, is I'm going to actually pre-comp these or put them in a comp. So I'm going to take the roof, make a comp of it, close that, take the wall, make a comp of that, close that, end wall, comp that, we'll do that later, and then we're going to need the floor. Close that. Okay, with those pre-comps, it's not necessary, but if I want to do things different down the road. And from that, we're going to need, obviously, the floor, the roof, the wall, and actually we need two walls. We're going to need a left-hand side wall and right-hand side of the wall, but they're the same thing, so we're just going to rename these things. Right, if I spelled that correctly. Right. Wall. Rename that. When you get more and more complicated timelines and stuff, I can't emphasize enough the necessity of naming your layers, naming your comps properly. Otherwise, it will just drive you nuts. Matter of fact, I'm even going to rename this one to main comp. Everything will go into the main comp. All right, so once again, we're going to just walk through this real simply. With all that in place, we can start building our space station. Now, the way we do this is quite simple. We're going to start by making a hallway, just a simple hallway, and then we're going to duplicate this hallway multiple times to actually make a much larger space station. Again, how to take a few things and make it pretty big. Now, I do want to warn you, if you do take and do these files on your, my handout on your own, and there is a warning literally in this, because one typo, and it's very easy to make a typo in this project, don't beat yourself up if you do it, will cause everything to look weird and off. Just go back over the information and fix it. So for example, with the floor, I'm going to make that 320. As our standard. No problem, Anna. 90 and 0. And then we're going to take this and we're going to rotate it. And this is where it gets a little tricky. The X rotation is going to be minus 90. And the Z rotation is going to be plus 90. And you can see there is the beginning of our floor right there. So with that, we're going to take a roof, more or less do the same thing. And we're going to go P for position. Yes, Max, do you want to say something? Your mic's on. Okay, I'll continue. So with the roof, it's 320 by 90. And then once again, I'm going to rotate it. Only this time it's going to be plus 90 and plus
Check.
90. Yep, you're on. I can hear you. And you're beginning to see there's the roof, there's the floor. Now it's time to play with the walls. So we'll go position with that. And that's our right wall. So I'm going to make that 620 because it has to move over to the side. And we want to keep it the same height, so that's okay. And then we just need to rotate it the way we want to. And it needs a Y rotation of 90. And you're starting to see there's that wall right there. This is very similar to what we did way back when with the dice. This is just a more advanced version of that. And finally with the left wall, again, we got to move it to the other side, so it's going to be less 20x. So it moves over to the left side. That's good. And then we're going to hit rotation, Y rotation, minus 90. And voila, I now have a four-sided object. If I flip into two views, and then change the left view from top to say custom view, you can see, get a better idea of what I have built. It literally is now. I've not moved the walls all the way out. I'm not going to worry about this because we're flying on the inside of what we're building. Therefore, whatever's on the outside really doesn't matter. But you can see how this is all set up. Okay, any questions so far? Are we good? I'm struck by the silence. So as before, we want to actually group this together. So I select all the layers, and I want to pre-compose that. And let's give that a name so I can tell these apart. So I want to call this one corridor. Hallway would be fine, but corridor probably works best. And of course, you'll notice that, of course, we've lost all of our 3D. So we got it once again. I just realized something I want to do. So I can zoom in. There we go. Hit the 3D cube and also hit the rasterize image, or collapse transformation, sorry, which does rasterize. Now we have one object, and we can manipulate this any way we want to. So it makes life so much easier to have everything all grouped together that way. Now my instructions actually have it putting in the camera at this point. I'm going to not do that at this very moment. I'll come back to this. So the next part of this is actually to build a space station. So I'm going to take this one hallway, and I'm going to duplicate it. 1, 2, 3, 4, which allows me to have a total of 5 copies of this. And what I'm going to do is rename each of these so I can tell them apart. If I didn't do this, this would be just a disaster. So I'm going to call this first one back corridor. And then I'm going to call this one right. Next one is going to rename left. I'm going to call this one corridor number 2. And finally, we'll go ahead and call this one number 1. So that way I can tell apart where I'm going to put these things. And when I have to manipulate them later, I can see where they're going. Now, just like moving the walls around, basically what I'm planning on doing is making a giant plus sign or cross, where I'm going to have a long corridor, and then it's going to flare right, left, and continue on straight ahead as well. So So you can guess which one is which one here. So with my handout in hand, I'm going to take the back order, play with this positioning, 240, because the Y seldom changes because I always want these all to be the same height. And then I'm going to move this way, way in the back. This is my farthest back point, 3,000 pixels. So if you look on the right-hand side of your screen as I hit enter, boom, you can see how far away that is now, and also up in the custom view as well. So it allows, we're just getting things going. The left and right hand ones are going to flare to the right and left hand side here. Let's go ahead and do the right hand side one position. And I'm going to make that one 2, 1, 2, 2, 0. 240, again, they're all the same height. So you can see that's going to the right hand side. And I'm going to move this back to 2100 pixels. So you can just sort of see it a little bit over there. But of course, it's against the solid wall, which means, of course, time for a rotation. So I'm going to rotate that Y 90 degrees. Aha! This left-hand side gives you a better idea where it is. I should point out that this handout will have a few flaws in it because it's no fun to not troubleshoot these things. So on the left-hand side, we're going to do the exact same thing, only for the left-hand side. So its position, and by the way, if you're following along on the PDF, it is actually on step number 4, right-hand column, front page. And this is going to be, because it's got to go to the far left-hand side, negative 580, 240, and then we have to move it all the way back, to, even with the other one, which was 2,100. And there it is on the left-hand side. If I were to use the track camera, you could see it, start seeing it over there, which means, of course, I got to rotate it now. Rotate. And it, of course, is Y negative 90. Coming along. It looks a little off, though, but I will deal with that in a minute. Yeah, why does it look off? Where's my typo? It's 280, 240, 21. Yeah. Put in the next one. Finally, we have to connect this space to tie them all together. So we just go second quarter, position, and it just has to slide forward 1,200 pixels. And voila. The first quarter can stay just where it is. So the X and Y, the two, right and left one, are sticking out a little bit. So again, you know, this is where we get into troubleshooting and stuff. But we also get into the situation of, you know, how do we see what we see? Well, now this is a good time to actually add the camera. So I'm just going to go Layer, New, Camera. I'm going to choose a very wide lens, 15 millimeter. The rest of the settings are okay. You can see there's my camera. Now we'll animate this down the road. But for now, I'm going to use it just for visual. So I can come back to where I want it to go. And I'm going to grab the Z and push it down. So I can actually fly. This is what we're going to do. We're going to fly down the hallway, but now I can use the camera to see, you know, what's happening down here and make some decisions. Now you can, by the way, just eyeball this, put it together with your eyeball, but having numbers or at least a starting point. So if I were to sit there and go position, I would sit there and go move it forward or backwards. Now if I move it too far back, I'm going to, of course, create a gap on the far end. Move it too far forward. But it does allow me to do some fun stuff here. So that's pretty close. As with all projects, it's a matter of playing with it, you know, just to get it. Still, wow, that's gaps right there. Every time they change the version of After Effects, for some odd reason, it throws this project's numbers off just a fraction. Drives me nuts. Yeah, we'll come back and fix that in just a minute. I'm going to go ahead and use my camera again. Excuse me. This allows me to pan and tilt so I can see what's happening. I need to move it more forward still. Move the camera forward. And you can see, even though I thought I cleared that gap, I had not. So. Who's to say what a space station looks like, right? Now, one of the things that will also help is putting more information here in this gap. If I were to use the camera motion tools that allow me to move things around, I could sit. And I'm being a little too dramatic here. There we go. Let's try this a little slower. Let's try that again. Using the various camera orbit tools and other ones. There we go. You can often help me see where the problems are and stuff. Okay, well, let's go ahead and put in the gaps there, or fill in the gaps, before we get into too much tweaking, and see if those gaps will help save this a little bit. So what I have to do, of course, is grab some more floor. So I come down here, grab floor. It's only 2D, so I have to change it to 3D. Go into position. And I'm going to reset this one to 320, 240. And of course, everything in that center quarter is 2,100 pixels. It's good to remember these numbers because you're going to need them down the road. Then obviously it also needs to be, well, rotated. And it's going to need to be flipped. So it's going to be a plus 90. And there we go. And that did not go where I wanted it to. Why not? 320, 240. Because I wanted that actually on the floor, which is 390. There we go. We now have a floor. See, like I said, one typo sort of throws this whole thing off, which then makes me want to come down and make the roof, 3D layer, P for position. Yes, 320. By 90. And again, it's in the same rough place, so it's 2,100, not rough exactly. At which point we just need to rotate it again. And it only needs Y rotation of this 90. Nope. I can't read my instructions. Sometimes it's easier. It's a positive 90. The next thing is the minus. There we go. We now have a roof. Now eventually the plan is to have the camera, come down here, make a left-hand turn, and come to the end. But as we know, there's going to be a blank spot. Just come down here. Grab the point of interest. Right there. So for that, I have another piece of JPEG called EndWall. Like before, I'm going to make it 3D, go to Position. And to get it into that location, it's going to be 1080, 240 is correct, all the way back to 2001. And you can see it, there it is. At which point I'm going to then choose rotation. And this is where I needed the minus 90 before. And I now have a wall over there. So you can see by just using simple JPEGs, I'm already making quite a complicated thing. If I hit, since I was doing keyframes, I can animate this. Means there's another keyframe. Double keyframes. Now obviously we'll have it go all the way around the corner when we come to this point. So what do you guys think? I'm moving through this rather quickly, but I've done this a lot of times. This normally takes the entire evening to get through the entire handout.
I kind of wish I knew this beforehand. I did this for my final, and I'm like, oh my God, I could have used this to help me.
That is the problem with this class, in the sense of I always have more to show you, and people always go, I could have used that for the last project I had. But it also is the, thing is, we just got to power through learning this basic stuff and how to put it together. I mean, the joke that students have told me, and I've reused, of course, is we get to this point of the semester and people are going, I'm finally starting to understand this program. I'm actually starting to do things with it. Wait, you mean the semester's over? No. That's why we split it into a, A and B class. So there is an advanced class for you guys to take after this. Oh, it looks Minecrafty. Yeah, I guess a little bit. And it's like being inside a video game.
I did make an attempt to do it, but mine didn't come out that good. I still followed the dice guy and sort of tried to make it real.
Yeah, it's granted, this, I've shown other teachers this and their minds blown that I actually cover the stuff in the beginning semester. But it's like, we've got to push ourselves. And also, by putting all the things we've learned together, you can see from the dice where this comes from. As we built every little piece of 3D information, as we built every filter, you can see how things start coming together, I hope. I mean, that's my true goal, in teaching this, is that you can look at this and go, okay, I'm starting to get the building blocks together. Because as you mix and do other things with this, it will become a vastly richer experience and you'll be able to do more things with it. And changing the subject just a hair here. Several people emailed me saying, is the YouTube videos going to stay up after the semester? And the answer is yes. So when we're done, this will go up as well in the next day or two. The Zoom videos, on the other hand, I do not know when those are going to vanish. Okay, I have no clue whatsoever. So you can, come back and re-experience the joys of the class with the YouTube videos, and feel free to point your friends to them. I have no problems with you sharing the information with other people. Okay, so we've got a basic layout, some basic things. We know we got problems in the center core area, but those can be fixed. And sometimes, things don't have to look 100% perfect. Things are not, obviously if you're doing something, a sleek future, but this looks like a pretty beat up ship. So we're going to assume that's not 100% perfect either. So one of the things that we want to do is, you'll notice the big huge gap at the very end there. Well, I happen to have two doors like this. They're almost identical except the handles are left and right. And of course making 3D. Of course I have both of them selected so you won't see that. Voila. Just slightly different from each other. And because we know exactly the distances, we can just plug in the information, fly them back to the very end. So for example, I'm going to move one of them to the right. Make sure I'm on the right one. Okay, right hand side one, which is 170. Slides it to the left. Do I have these things backwards? Oh, well. Actually, I think I'm doing this one, each one of these backwards. 470 is the left-hand side one. Oh, well, 240. And I know because of how far back I sent the very last quarter and how the length of it, I know that it's 3,600 pixels. Like I said way back when at the beginning, if you design your Photoshop files and know exactly the size of them and stuff, you can really save you a lot of time and money and energy on measuring things out. You don't have to guess. You just know that it's that far. So if I hit play, and there they are. They actually do not look quite right. So I'm just basically using my camera to see things. Yeah, I think it's my back quarter that's a little bit off. I can use my arrow keys. A little bit of fun there. Get to play with these things. Or you can eyeball it. Not awful, not great. Keep in mind we're trying to do this fun. These projects are not, movie quality. We're just trying to get things together to the point. I thought I told you to stop. Yeah, it feels weird using a virtual camera to adjust everything. What do you guys think? Okay? Okay, so speaking of camera, let's go ahead and actually animate this camera to be our move. So for that, because I've been using it to do other things, I'm going to hit reset. going to kill all those keyframes I made. So it puts the camera back to exactly where I wanted it at the very start point. And if I were to look at this, I could actually see that my camera, I actually have extra space back there. So I could actually start farther back. Gives it a little bit more running space. But if I pull it back too far, obviously I'm outside the spaceship. So you want to choose a nice spot. Negative 700, which is different than my handout, but that's a good point. It's actually, half in, half out. Or I should say it's all the way in. So this is going to be my start point. So of course with the camera, and the cameras are tricky, so I'm going to control the point of interest, which is its tilt, right, left, and its physical position of sliding down the hallway. It starts there. Okay. So I'm going to go to that, start my keyframe. And as an added bonus, I'm going to go there. Let's see. Transform. And I'm going to choose auto orientate. Now that will make sure the camera is always pointed toward the point of interest. So just when it's going down the path, it will follow that little starburst symbol as opposed to the actual path of the camera. It's a minor thing, but it does work. So the first half of this is pretty straightforward. I'm going to go down to about 5 seconds. I'm going to increase that point of interest to the hallway, which we know is 2,100 pixels. And you can see it right there. Now, why are we doing that? Well, we don't want the camera to cross that point of interest. If you recall way, way, way back at the beginning, that is, if the camera goes past the point of interest, the camera will flip 180. As a matter of fact, let me delete that keyframe. Delete. And just demonstrate this. I'm going to just select the position, have the camera, as you see on the left-hand side, it's moving forward, but the point of interest is not moving. It's static. But when I hit that, boom, the camera flips and does a 180. So to prevent that from happening, get rid of that keyframe as well. To prevent that from happening, I'm going to make sure my point of interest is way down the hallway. So it won't be able to do that flip on me accidentally. Okay, now I've got to, of course, make the thing move. So I'm going to have it go down a few more seconds here. Let's have it go down about halfway through the comp. And I'm going to change the position down to 1,530 pixels, which puts it almost in the middle of the hallway. I'm doing that because I want it to make a turn. Okay. So I'm going to go about 8 seconds forward. I'm going to, again, change the point of interest as opposed to the positioning. I'm going to have it start doing its rotation. I want to go left. And now right now that's a little too sharp of a turn. Because what did I type? Okay, that's I'm going to have them go forward 9 seconds. Wrong button, Eric. what I just did was because I manually did it, I tilted it a little bit too crazy. So let's keep it on the same plane before I keep it straight. There we go. Now I'll go down about 9 seconds and move the camera. And so we'll make that minus 960, 240. 1 second, I gotta get the last number in there. That's minus 960, there we go. That's what we want. So this should be a reasonably smooth motion. So as we fly down the corridor, you can see how my render time is constantly increasing. Comes by, almost clips the corner, and then stops for a few seconds. Now keep in mind, I could make this look like anything. The suggestion is to, of course, use a null layer to control your camera. That is probably one of the better options. I haven't, obviously being the beginning class, but I want people to understand the reason why I'm not telling people to do that right at this point, or my handout doesn't cover it, is because I want people to understand what the difference between the point of interest and the position stuff is. It's important to know these things. So just giving you an idea. And yeah, it's 2-node camera, but again, I'm trying to show a little bit more behind the cameras. Let's see, there were some other questions here. If you move the point of interest with the camera, okay, starting at the top, sorry guys, I'm a little bit behind on this chat here. I was too intense in getting this animation going. Okay, what happens if you move the point of interest with the camera? If you manually grab it from the whirligig, they will move together and keep an equal distance as you're going through. Okay? That's why a lot of people parent-child the camera to a null object and then animate the null object, because it keeps everything distance. But when you do that, you do run out of the options of not being able to control these other things or keyframing them. So it comes with pros or cons doing this. And the other question, that as Jennifer was saying, is, yeah, that's the weird thing about the camera. If I manipulate it with a whirligig, it moves both point of interest and position together. But the moment I hit the timeline, it allows me to separate out. It's an intentional design feature where it allows me to decide. Give a little more time at the end here. You know, it gives me more control. For example, I could add, you know, rotation to the camera so it looks like I'm banking on this turn. You know, so I can make it a little wrong. Up, no. Anyhow, there's lots of, you know, craziness I can do with this, etc. I shouldn't go too far off script because I haven't tested any of these things yet. Anyhow, so another way of using camera to keep things much more simple is to create a null layer, animate that for your motion, and then just parent the camera to the null layer. Yes, that's a much easier way of doing things and gives you a lot more control, but for educational purposes, it doesn't allow me to show you all these other things that you can do with the camera and stuff. So, you know, sometimes we intentionally do things a little bit harder in class just to show you what is possible. Yeah, the question Jennifer also had is, I guess I'm also asking if the visual perspective difference, if they move together versus, there's a little bit of perspective, you know, feeling. Now, one of the reasons that gives us the weirdest feeling is that 15mm lens of the camera. I've not tried this in a while, so let's see if the camera, so if I were to, of course, use the pointer tool, not the change the focal length to a standard 35, just already you can see the difference between a 15 millimeter lens, say 35 millimeter lens. There's 15 millimeter, and there's a 35. Now you're getting into photography and things like that. Is one of those lenses better than the other? No, it just gives you a different look and feel. Yes, you can set, well, that would be a lot for a beginning class, but yeah, you can set the focal length and do all these things. Anybody who really knows how a camera operates is normally blown away by these settings, because it's like you can do so many things here that is scary. Okay. Can you set the focal length to whatever the point of interest is? The point of interest is just literally where the camera is pointed. I'm not sure what you're trying to achieve. I'm just going to show the different lenses for the fun of it.
I'm just asking because you're having the point of interest move in order to align the camera independently of each other. But if you can align the depth or the focal length to where you move the point of interest, it would just make it easier on where you're focusing the camera.
True. I'll be honest with you, never tried it. You know, there's a lot of things you just don't try it until you get to that point. But when you look at this and suddenly realize that this is nothing more than a bunch of JPEGs, that's pretty impressive in my opinion. Okay. And like I said, you can, again, change the path of it flying down the hallway to make it zoom. We can add a little Z rotation here if we want to do that banking thing I was talking about as well. You know, it's really lots of fun and possibilities here. Any other questions so far? Glad you guys were getting in with this one, enjoying it. Okay. All right, let's talk about jazzing this up. One of the things that is in your, stop it from moving first. One of the things that is in your file are what we call the junk videos, MOVs, which we need to make 3D. And they are literally spinning junk. Just objects rotating in space. They were actually made in a 3D program and set to loop and stuff. First problem, though, quite simply, is this. These things are short. Well, except for these two, which I fiddled with. But they all start off very, very short. But because these things are designed to be looped, meaning repeat over and over again, we can take this piece of video, because it is an MOV. Now, here's where my handout's not as specific as it should be, and I should really rewrite it. My apologies, so you may want to put a note. Is under Junk 3, if I come up to the project file, not the timeline, but the original project file, I can go in and hit Interpret Footage. This can also, that's with the right click, I can also go File, Interpret Footage. And go to Main. By doing this, it gives me a lot more how to deal with the match problems, frame rates of the video, and things like this. Plus, I can say, let's make it loop 6 times. Now, once again, I've now made it go repeat itself 6 times, but I also still need to stretch out that video. Otherwise, it would stop because it's cropped. And with Junk 4, I need to do the same thing. Come up here. I'll just right-click this time. Yes, you could do the keyboard shortcuts, but I don't remember every keyboard shortcut. 6 times. Once again, I need to stretch it out. So now that junk will spin for the length of the comp. So I want this to look like a derelict space station. So I want to place these elsewhere. I could just randomly grab them, move them, but I do have some suggestions here. So for example, on junk 1, be the first one we see, we're going to set it at 370. Going to raise it a little higher, 260, because it's floating in 0G. And we're going to bring it closer to the camera, 255. There we go. So that's the first one we're going to see. And then for junk 2, P for position, going to move it down the hallway, also move it up, 380. 290. Actually, 290 is the one that's moving it up, my bad. And then we'll move it down the hallway to 400 pixels. So it's about not quite the midpoint. And where that, whoops. Come on, close. Then we're going to use junk 4 and move it all the way to the back, past the camera, where the camera turns, but something for the audience to look at. And then I'm going to go back in Z space and put it way back there, 3,600 pixels. Don't worry about number 3. We'll get to that. And for number 3, we're going to actually put it over by the Santa Monica College sign. So we're going to set that one up to minus 520, 240, and we're going to make that 2,100, 300. So you can see it's way back there. Okay, once I've done that, I'm going to, of course, hit play, see what it looks like. See that one piece of junk way in the back. Now, if I don't like the way that junk number 1 is looking, of course, I can have it not hit the camera by just sliding its position. So it makes it look like we just missed it. And if I don't like how any of one of these things is, I can, of course, change it. Okay. I can manually do this as well. So that junk number 4, which is my far back one, maybe I don't like it there. Maybe I want to pull it forward. So I can also rotate it. Yes, I got a spot for it. I'll just leave it as is. So what do you guys think? Now, obviously, the next stage, or the next thing to do, is to play with the lighting. I mean, that's a little too good for it, as it were. Now, lighting becomes a challenge because, if you think about it, I got to be careful where and how I point my lights. If you recall way back at the beginning, one of the things I need to do is, if I want things to cast a shadow, like that as junk, I need to turn on each layer, material options, and say cast shadows on. Now, because I selected all 4 of those junks at this time, if I click it for one of them, it will work on all of them. I'll go through and set everything. So you have to be careful when you select multiple layers because you can change everything. But of course, there's no light in there yet, so therefore there is no shadow at this point in time. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say choose light. And I'm going to choose an ambient light. I'm going to choose just plain white for the moment. And I'm going to turn its intensity down, let's say 35%. Because ambient light is what it sounds like. It is this light throughout the entire scene. It doesn't cast shadows, but it allows me to see what's going on and will prevent things from being. But already mood-wise, you can see, you know, that really greatly changes things. So the next thing to do is I want to add spotlight. So it's a layer new spot. Change it from ambient to spotlight. Ooh, what color should we go with? Should we go blue, green, red? Danger red? % red. How intense do I want this? That's a good question. We'll set this to 100% and we can play with it later. Now I've got a spotlight. See if I pull it back, point it down, move it up. Already you can see the shadow. Oops. And you have to be careful which one you grab. So for example, I could put that spotlight right there on the wall or directly on the pieces. You can see that spotlight is covering this first beginning of the hallway. So if I then go duplicate the light, edit, duplicate, Command D as well. Of course, it's twice as bright. But I can take this second one. This is where you got to be careful where you grab these things. Put to the right. No, don't move the hallway. Probably be a wise idea if I were to lock down the rest of this, but oh, I'm going to live dangerously. Sure, I'll repeat how I did the ambient light in just a split second. So I go, not rotation, P for position. And remember, the light also has a point of interest because I didn't change it. This light's now pointing backwards to the camera. But I can just grab it, turn it around. And I just moved a chunk of quarter. I really should lock those down. There we go. If I have to move them, I'll unlock them. As a matter of fact, I might want to point this to the other hole. But remember, the lights do not show up with the camera. Matter of fact, I probably should move the camera farther down. That would make my life easier to see what I was doing with my light. As a matter of fact, if I wanted to, I could even change the color of this a little bit. Give me a much more. And the thing about coloring the lights, of course, is if you mix them together, it mixes colors. So the question was asked in the chat, the ambient light, this little guy here, where did he come from? Well, basically, when I just went layer new, made a light, and then there's a drop-down menu to make it ambient. Okay, Jonathan, answer your question? You're very welcome. Now, the other thing is, remember, you can keyframe your lights. Side, custom view, top. There we go. Now I've got that light bathing the right-hand side. So I got to go from red, blue, and the ambient's taking up the rest of this. So I'm probably going to want to duplicate that guy again. Now it's outside the space station, which is not doing me any good. Where's my X? There we go. Come back inside where you're going to do me some good. There we go. Now this has a lot of artistic, possibilities and questions in it. It's like, what looks good to you? Do you want to make it look all green? Do you want to make it look all red? Do you want to make it mixture? What do you want to make their space station look like? What type of story are you trying to tell? Now also notice, now that I've hit play, the moment you add those lights, it drops your render queue, your rendering time amazingly. It just takes quite a while to go through all this. Now, if you look on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see the shadow of that last piece of junk. And that actually, I think it's more impressive than the junk spinning around. Now, just for the hay of it, to show you production design stuff, let's actually do that. Let's change these colors to green there. So the ambient's now green. Actually, the red's kind of neat there. Let me change that. Let's change this also to... Actually, that blue-green really looks good, I think. Your mileage may be different. What do you guys think? Still rendering. Get it into real time first, I suppose. There we go. With the lighting, you barely even notice the flaws on the right-hand side of the hallway. You know, your eye doesn't pick it up fast enough. Jennifer just says, my computer usually sounds like an airplane taking off. Yeah, because you're overheating it and the fans are all kicking in. This is a memory-intensive program. Make no mistakes about it. You know, I'm proud of you guys being able to do so much from home with your home machines. You know, generally speaking, for people who don't have powerful enough computers, we have the computer lab. So the fall is going to still be having the same issue that you're having right now. Okay. Any questions more on the lighting and stuff before I change? Well, what else can we do to jazz this up? What else can we do? Well, actually, how? Another comment was, yeah, my keyboard gets on fire when I use After Effects. If I open up the quarter comp, which is, oops, that's not that one actually, I want the wall comp. There we go. This guy, remember I pre-comped this, which of course means that I can put more different information in here if I want to. This is on every section of the hallway, so any change I make to this will be replicated throughout the entire thing. So say I want some glowing buttons. All right, so how do I do that? Well, if I want some glowing buttons, I'm going to actually make a solid. There, new, solid. Let's make a yellow button. So I'm going to go solid yellow. First thing we're going to do is turn down the opacity so I can actually see what I'm working on. I can turn it back on later, but what I want to do is I want to make like one of these buttons glowing. So I'm going to use my masking tool. I'm going to put my yellow button. And therefore I have a nice big, make it nice and solid. And I'm going to go to the effects and presets, choose glow. So that gives me a nice rich glow intensity. Actually, I think I'm going to keep the opacity down, let's see, 75%. There we go, so you can still sort of see through it. But I'm going to keyframe that glow intensity because I want it sort of blinking. So get you. Come down here, turn that up. Come back down here, turn that back down. Come back here one more time and turn it all the way back up again. How far can I push it? 10. There we go. Now this I could cut and paste to so that's not giving me the action I wanted. Decisions, as they say. I know it looks small, but I guess we are back to using the opacity to do this better. So I'll keyframe that. There we go. Okay, so that gives me a little flicker. Now I could just cut and paste that and repeat as I've shown you in the beginning of the semester, but now that we know how to do, expressions, I can also hit Alt, click on the stopwatch. If you recall, loop out. And with loop out, it just keeps doing what I told it to do, flicker. Now if I go back to my main comp, go all the way back to the beginning, you should see little dots of flickering light every so often. Back it up. Yep, it's that little guy right there. It's not very bright. That may not be. This is one of those trial and error things. This is not in my handout, by the way. Just giving you guys ideas on what else you can do with this. You can also see how painful the render time is. There's a better look at that little flashing light right there. We'll see how it looks when this comes down to real time, whether all that time and energy was worth it or not. But this is the sort of things that you do, this little itty-bitty things to make things more lively. At first it doesn't catch your eye when you see that little flashing light, but over here in this bulkhead, you can see that it does actually add something to it. So for that reason, I'll go back to my wall. Duplicate. That would make it brighter. As a matter of fact, I think I will keep that. I'll go layer new solid again. This time I think I'll make a red light. Once again, play with the opacity, just so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to make this other one. There we go. And that's red. Yeah, I think I will just snag that information. And I will change the speed of that by holding down the Alt key with all those selected and spreads them out. So it does it a different thing. Make sure that let's see how that looks. And also I think I will make that a duplicate as well to make it darker and brighter. And let's add another button. What the hey, since we're here. Solid. For opacity, drop it down. It's the little things that just bring things to life. So now when we watch this, I didn't put onto the blue and yellow, my glow. Onto the red. And with that set, let's go back to the main comp. Suffer through the render time again. Let's see how that looks. I think the doubling layering actually hurt me. Back to the main comp. One of the reasons I'm doing it this way is I'm doing a lot of trial and error just to show you that this is what it takes. You know, you just sit some time playing with it until you get it the way you want it to look. So the flashing lights are not stunning, but they are nice and subtle. And that's what it takes to build these things up, is to make them just a little bit, you know, little details here and there to hint at, and people will see them. Now, can we also jazz the ending up a little bit? Because right now that's kind of boring, I'm thinking. What if we had like electrical lightning coming around this thing? So, there's the end wall. So if I were to duplicate the end wall, and put lightning into that, we need to bring it a little bit further. Oh, come on. Hello. No, I did not mean bring it down. There it is. Now, the reason why the lightning, I put it onto this layer, remember the lightning deletes all the other information. That's why I duplicated this. And I can animate this now. So I can see what this coming from the corner. So I'm going to move the camera forward because this is what I'm using to eyeball this thing. And I'm going to use my keyframes, of course. By moving the direction, this guy here, it allows me to change where the lightning's pointed over time. So I can start on the floor or start at the SMC. I think I'll start it up on top, move forward a bit, and then I'll have it move down and hit the floor here, like so. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to spread out these two keyframes so that motion happens slowly over time. And of course, I can core settings. Let me go ahead, see what color really looks good. think the red looks best. What do you guys think? I'm going to go to the glow. No, red's not good for that. I want to drop that opacity just quite a bit. Make it turbulence, make it really look dangerous. Let's see what that looks like. I need to change that keyframe. And that's not enough activity also. Oops. It sees it sooner, so I need to bring it forward. And also I need a lot more animation going on, I think. So I need to... So again, I'm just moving the keyframes around at this point, and then I'll readjust them. Yeah, I could use an expression for this, but I think I'm preferring to more manually do this. Select them all, hit Alt. You know, it's still not happening fast enough. Therefore, the solution is the expression. So this will cause them to jump around very quickly. All right, let's see what happens with that. See how it slows down immediately. Yeah, it's a lot more lively as lightning goes. Looks a lot more dangerous too, doesn't it? Yeah, you know, lots of possibilities. I could also just make it look like, energy coming up and down. Could go fancier and make it look like it's in a tube. So many possibilities with that. One of the other things I wanted to show real fast. Now, I apologize. I tried uploading this video footage. Let's see if I can. Oh, there it is. Huh. Oh, there it is. We got a guy with a gun moving. It's green screen, of course. So by taking this, putting it in there, of course, it's pre-comped, meaning that I've already keyed out the. Now, of course, that doesn't quite look right. Also, we're going to run into issues with him turning the camera. So what we really want to do here is take this, flip it. Okay. Make it 3D. Go position. How far back? Where's that hallway? Well, it's 2,100 pixels down there. We also need to He's a little too big, so we just do a simple scale. Move farther down the hallway here. Scale him down to just still need to move him forward. Because now it looks like we're in an air duct due to his size. Now we could let's see how it looks first. What do you guys think? How small should we make him? Space station for ants. Good point. Obviously, this was not shot in tandem. This is footage I got off the internet. But my problem size-wise is if we don't make him big enough, scale him down. 25, did we say? There we go. Then he will not walk onto the screen properly. So this all gets into, did you shoot it properly to do this? So the question is, should it be closer to the floor? Don't know, because as I've been changing every size and stuff, you have to go through and correct it every single time. The junk does a good job of hiding him. And because, like I said, this is found footage, If I had planned this out properly and gone and had my own green screen, shot it, we could have like people walking down the hallway and having the cameras in over the shoulder shots. And you're correct, the lighting does not affect him. So this is a not perfect solution, but it is something to think about. Now we could, of course, if you think about it, make a shadow for him. Any thoughts on how to do that? Well, basically we just duplicate him. Once we're happy with the size of everything. Rotation. X rotation. 90 degrees. Bring that down. Whoops, and I hit the wrong one. Yeah. And I hit the wrong one again. Let's lock that. There we go. There's a shot. And let's go to opacity. Drop that down quite a bit. Too much. See, this is how we add little bits in the time. And not sure about feathering yet, one of the comments in the thing, but we can definitely put a blur onto it. Not too much, that's way too much. That's not a bad shadow. Now, people, of course, the lights are going the wrong direction and stuff, but with lights going every which way, it's not uncommon to have shadows pointing the other way. So let's go ahead and start from the beginning and see if that looks like anything. The junk is actually acting as a good distraction to point out that he's not really there yet. Now that shadow really helps, don't you think? Much better than my lightning earlier on. Yeah, that shadow really adds it, doesn't it? And we're flying by it so quickly. This is how you incorporate found footage to this video of the guy is not in the folder that I uploaded to Canvas. Sorry about that. It would not, I spent better part of an hour trying to get it uploaded. Same problem I had last week. So I couldn't get it quite. So I apologize for that. And also, let's see what else I can do with this. Now, I did also find some footage. Well, I have this thing which is fog. We could add some fog to the comp as well. Let's come back here. Now, of course, the fog would just, if we leave it 2D, so we'll go, okay, select the fog, go to File. Remember, we got to do that from up here. Extrude footage, main, Slip that twice. There we go. Stretch it out. Now by leaving this 2D, it actually shows up throughout the entire which may or may not work. You could play with the opacity. That gives it more of a dreamlike quality, I think. Let's see what it looks like in real time once it's done. Still rendering it. Oh, did I break my own computer? Is it not rendering properly? Preview. Ah, there's my green line. Okay. Then we'll see what it looks like. That's a little bit too much of a dream quality for my taste, don't you agree? Okay, so bring it back up to 100% opacity. So what else are we going to do with this? Well, we could make it a 3D layer. 90 degrees. Back it up. Well, that made it head on. That's not what I wanted. Need X rotation, 90 degrees. Screw that. There we go. That's what I was trying to do. What I was trying to do is put this video of the fog and stretch it throughout the like so. Try to get some fog on the floor here. Does it show up enough, though, is the question. A lot of what we do is trial and error. And that's why it didn't show up. Haha. There it is. So I definitely do not need the double. There we go. Interesting. I'm not sure that works, but I just wanted to throw it out as an idea. And now it's probably gone past the length of it. I probably need a light directly on it to get a bounce off of it. Yeah, the guy, video of the guy is probably the best part of this so far. So what do you guys think? Is it interesting to see how everything comes together now that we're toward the end of the semester? 3D lighting, 2D flat Photoshop stuff, etc. Any thoughts, questions, suggestions, or want me to try something different? It's still a fog, all right. Alien versus Predator. Yeah, it does have that feel to it, doesn't it? I went ahead and doubled up the fog, and now it really does look like you're moving through something, a low-hanging gas. I could add a filter for turbulence and stuff as well to mess it, make it move more in different directions, etc. Just again showing you all the possibilities. Can I blow everything up? Do you mean can I make a virtual explosion? Or can I destroy my timeline to the point I can't fix it again? Again, just giving you guys ideas and stuff. Thoughts, ideas, suggestions at this point? I went through this a little bit faster than I had planned. Again, normally this takes all night to go through that handout. It's because you guys will be doing it also. I do have a quick question for you. Is anybody online have enough computing power where they're trying to follow along with me? Or are you guys just watching me? Yeah, that's what I was thinking, is most people don't have like 2 monitors and stuff. Not want to risk your computer shutting down. Okay, it's 8:15. Let's go ahead and set this back to one view. Come on, one view. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Full render. Sorry. I'm going to try to make this full screen. Get a little more detail in this. As it has to re-render at this higher res. But you do get to see the buttons I made earlier blinking and stuff. Okay, let's see what it looks like in real time. Okay, guys, thank you for that information. Okay, we're getting about, it's now 8:20, just about. Let's go ahead and take our 15-20 minute break. Let's see, call it, now we'll take a longer break this time. Let's go do it until 20, 30, quarter two would be a pretty long break. But that sounds good. That'll give you guys a chance to ask me questions after I get back from getting a drink and stuff. When we get back, actually, I want to turn it into open mic and talk to you guys all and hear what you have to say. So if you don't have your microphone hooked up, please do so, because I want to basically, I'm going to have to do this class again online with the fall. And I want to get some feedback from you guys on how I can make it better, considering I had literally 1 week to figure out how to do this. There's a lot of ideas I have, but I want to talk to you more about that as well, to get your feedback, ideas, and stuff. So let's get back here at quarter of. I'll be back shortly. I'm just going to go get another drink of water and stuff. So let's go ahead and stretch our legs. I'm going to stop the recording for the moment.